Hello, everybody. This is Fernando for the all new Ghosts and Spirits Special Edition video. Well, I was teasing this the other day when it came to a surprise announcement there, not only in my Facebook channel, but also on my community tab here on my YouTube channel. And it has to do with this. I spent the night there at the haunted Magnolia Hotel this past weekend. It was a fantastic stay. This was something I've been working on for a little bit of time, finding the right opportunity, in other words, and I was finally able to do so. So I wanted to make this special edition video because I took a whole bunch of pics while I was waiting and just basically there doing my little investigation within the haunted hotel. I was by myself, 100% just by myself, so this was a great way for me to enjoy it and see what I can experience just on my own. And in this video I wanted to also talk about everything that I encountered there, my thoughts, my feelings as well, and then briefly highlight some of my past trips there too to the haunted Magnolia Hotel, because when I mentioned the past, I've actually dedicated another video about 2 or so years ago, and it's gotten a good number of views. This was one of my first trips then at the time to the hotel, so I'll include the link for it below in case you wanted a precursor to this video here. Check it out if you have a chance. But let's go ahead and let's talk about this. In this case, I spent the night there at the haunted Magnolia Hotel. So yes, indeed, this just occurred this past weekend there in Seguin, Texas. Now first, the brief history associated with my earlier trips. So I've actually been to the haunted Magnolia Hotel, not including this trip, a total of 3 times before. 2 of those times were the guided tours. These were these tours that are hosted by the owners of the building, Jim and Aaron, who you're looking at here. Very wonderful people. You can tell that this is absolutely a labor of love when it comes to this hotel. They actually purchased this hotel a couple of years back, and they've just been restoring it ever since. When I was there at one of my earlier guided tours, I've seen from then up until now the huge difference associated with their restoration. I mean, it's night and day when it comes to what they've done to this building. I mean, they've just completely restored parts of it that before were just absolutely dilapidated. They were in a state of living decay. And then here now in my own stay this past weekend, I'm walking, and you'll see some of those pics here in a minute. I'm walking through these very places that are now 100% pristine, brand new. It was just absolutely amazing. So fantastic job, Jim and Aaron, when it comes to your restoration and your labor of love for this hotel. But yes, these guided tours, I've been on 2 of them. If you haven't had a chance, I do recommend those. They do those every now and then. These are where you go to these tours, and maybe in about an hour to an hour 15 total, you are guided throughout the entire hotel. And the way it works is Erin in particular will guide the tour, and then she'll tell every single room a brief history associated with it. So you walk from the first floor up to the second floor, and then all the way down to the cellar, to the basement area, and then that tour finishes. And then the third time that I went there, it was actually on one of their quote-unquote open houses. So this was something more on the lines of they hold maybe once or twice a year, and that's where they pretty much during the day only, for a couple of hours, they leave the house open. They're there, of course, but they leave the house open for anyone to come in, and it's free. So the guided tours, you do have to pay a little bit for them, and then the actual free open house, that's where you can come in on your own. If I would recommend either one of those 2, I would recommend more of the guided tour because it's smaller, it's more intimate. It's during the nighttime where you'll see more activity. The free open house is fine. You'll just be packed in with maybe like 100 people at the same time. So you're not going to get too much experience on the haunted side there. But if you just want to see history, then yes, you'll have that chance too. So those 3 trips got me the idea, once I heard last year that not only were they almost finishing renovations, but they were also going to make this into an Airbnb. It got the idea in my head, let me try it out. Let me see if I can actually stay for the first time ever in a haunted hotel. I mean, I've been on various other ghost hunts before in the past where, for lack of a better term, it's overnight. It's not really necessarily like, well, yeah, possibly staying the whole night. But in this case, this is more on the lines of a relaxed atmosphere. It's not really a ghost hunt per se. se when it comes to this haunted Airbnb. I'll explain that more here in a minute, but it's more along the lines of you're staying in a home just like you would, let's say, in any other hotel in this part of the United States, but you happen to just be in a place that's haunted. And so you can watch TV, you can read a book, cook, and when it comes to because they have a kitchen area there too, do whatever you normally do in a hotel. You just happen to have 13 other ghosts residing there with you at the same time. And that's fascinating. Like when I saw that this was being created as far as the B&B, I was waiting for the perfect opportunity to do so. And lo and behold, it came. Because of this whole coronavirus situation, a lot of their bookings, I guess, are more sparse because of the self quarantines. And so when that happened, some of their pricing dropped on the Airbnb, and it happened to be on a Friday right after work, and then I have to work the next day. So perfect opportunity. So as soon as I saw that, I jumped on it, and then I was able to book the discounted stay. And then here I was this past weekend enjoying the whole overnight trip. In this case, I was not going to sleep. I made a promise to myself. I wanted to enjoy it as much as possible. And so I actually stayed awake the entire night, and I did things a little differently. Remember, I was mentioning earlier that it's not really a ghost hunt when it comes to this stay. This is because if you do end up actually staying for an Airbnb, which I also recommend too, if you have the chance and you wanted to get a much more intimate experience, rather than going on the guided tour, do the actual Airbnb. And if you do so, be prepared though, you cannot be doing an actual ghost hunt. What I mean is this: you're not allowed to do any video filming. You're not allowed to do any live streams. You can kind of do some investigations with your own equipment, like if you bring your own ghost meter or EMF detector, that's perfectly fine. If you do so, that's fine. In fact, they provide some of the equipment themselves there. The thing is, though, they don't want you necessarily like trying to stream like trying to provoke ghosts, in other words, because this is an actual hotel. People will stay here as well after you and then before you. And then, of course, the guided ghost tours are happening there periodically. So the whole point is you can hunt. As far as a ghost hunt, it just has to be more of an active, like a light one, not necessarily a hardcore one, like if you're going to any of the other haunted spots out there in Texas or throughout the United States. Here, you're going to be a little bit more limited. I was actually fine with that because it would give me a nice breather. Rather than, let's say, spend the whole night doing active ghost hunts, this time I was going to stay awake all night and just pretty much either lounge in the couch area where you're looking at here or in the chair area that's nearby too, and then just sit. Just sit, maybe read a book, maybe watch a little bit of videos, like when it comes to my Spectrum app or YouTube, because I love YouTube as well, on my little phone, or just do anything else like read articles on Google News, stuff like that. The whole point was I wanted to experience the hotel as is. If there are truly 13 ghosts roaming around that location, all these set of rooms there on the top floor, then I wanted to hear them. I wanted to make their presence known on their own. So I wanted, in other words, to hear knockings. I wanted to hear footsteps, maybe even some cries or moans or other things that ghosts do. And then that way, this is their house. I just happen to be an invited guest. And that's how I wanted to be this go around. And for a good while, it worked. Like, for example, when you first walk up to the actual hotel, and now you're looking at some of the current pictures, like in other words, stuff associated with my actual trip, you'll see this. This is the entrance. This is the area where you actually come into. It's really neat because you're actually given a special code whenever it becomes your stay. Like whenever the day of your stay becomes available, a code becomes available on the day of your stay. When you go there, you punch in that code on that door, the door opens up, and then you're looking at this. This is the actual staircase that comes up to the second floor. Now, one thing to note, you're not given access to the entire hotel. What I mean is you're not given access to the first floor. That's the main area where the guided tour occurs. There's a lot of ghostly activity that I've encountered there too, and I mentioned that in my first video, which again, I have the link for it on the bottom below. But these stairs will lead you to the second floor, which is the main Airbnb. So when you go up to the second floor, and by the way, these stairs, I'll mention more here also in a minute because I did have a ghostly encounter with these stairs too. When you go up to the second floor, then that's when you encounter this. This is the main living room area. In fact, this is the main area that I spent most of the night awake that I was mentioning earlier. There I was either sitting on the couch or laying on the couch and or sitting on that chair and then just basically listening to my surroundings while also doing whatever I was doing, just making sure that these ghosts would have their chance to make their presence known. And then there's a kitchen area there too. I did bring some food. There was a nice little restaurant nearby called Rocket Wings that I was able to get some wings, the boneless wings from, of course. You know me, those of you that follow my channel, how much I love these boneless wings. And then there I was just within the hotel itself, just lounging around waiting to hear. It was almost like impromptu when it came to my decision as far as just sitting there, just laying around, just doing nothing, because it was a first chance. It was a breather, like I mentioned earlier, when it came to having my experiences there with these 13 ghosts. And I did have one right away. So this room you're looking at now is known as Amelia's room. This was the room that I also had an encounter with on one of the other times that I was there. The free open house that I was mentioning earlier, when I was in this room, back then, this room was nothing like it shows now. This was a dilapidated room. It was completely just run down. There was no bedding. There was nothing. Like the room was just torn down almost. What a difference now when it comes to how it looks today. But this was Amelia's room, and apparently the ghost of a little girl resides in this room. And so that little ghost friend that you see there on the bed, that's one of those sets of equipment that I carry with me when I do my little ghost hunts. I basically set it up there. It works too. If there's a ghost that's nearby or something that sets it off, when obviously there's nothing around it, it'll make a loud noise, like it'll do a little spooky sound and it'll light up. And so the minute I set it down and started walking away, once I went past this doorway that you're looking at, this thing went off. It shouldn't have gone off. The lights were already on, because if it's in a darker room and you suddenly turn on lights, it does go off on its own because it's being set off by the motion inside, the motion sensor inside it by the lights. But in this case, the light was already clearly on. I was walking away from it, so I was not setting it off. In fact, I was outside of the room when that occurred, and then the thing turned on. And so I quickly took a picture, which is the one you're looking at here, and then that's where I realized right off the bat that somebody was saying hello to me as I was in that room. And then I walked around to the other parts of the room here. I was taking pictures of some of the history that the room has, or the hotel has. In fact, Jim and Aaron had created some folders that you're looking at here that showcase some of the before and after pics. It's a great piece of history if you wanted to see how the hotel looked whenever it was purchased. Again, it was just completely just run down. Imagine like your average horror-liked building, like in a building in a rundown area in a horror film. That's essentially how this looked like. But it was amazing how they converted it. But you can see all of that history before and after. There's also some fascinating clippings here and there posted on the walls and in other areas, not just about the history of the hotel, but also with regards to the new famous aspects that the hotel has, and it is gaining some infamy. Ghost Adventures was, of course, here a couple of years ago. They featured it in one of their seasons, and that essentially put them on the map. Erin herself mentioned in one of the tours that once the hotel has a different type of life. There was before Ghost Adventures and there was after Ghost Adventures, and then once Ghost Adventures happened, the hotel has never been the same when it comes to the number of people recognizing it. And then other areas that you go into include this other room here. I think this was a room, if I remember Aaron stating correctly, and I might have some of this information wrong because some of the guided tours happened a while back, but I think Aaron was mentioning that there was a poor young woman that was murdered, or was it a salesman? A salesman, if I recall correctly, that was murdered in this room. He just happened to be staying at the wrong place at the wrong time, and when that occurred, that's why this room in particular has some history to it. I did put a little ghost friend there too, right on the bed, to see if there was any kind of communication. I also used the EMF detector that was given by the hotel, by Aaron, and gym during that time period, and I kind of saw it set off once. Like it maybe went to a yellow mark. Well, because I placed it purposely by one of the ghost friends to see if they could help set off not just my little ghost buddies, but also the EMF detector. And just once it went off to a yellowish color, but that was about it. But that room, I didn't really particularly sense anything or hear anything in that one. So instead, that was more along the lines of just a brief visit afterward. And then I was going towards the other areas that you're looking at here. When it came to some of my stays, you'll see that there's more locations like the kitchen area that you go to. And then there's one more area. I think it was another separate room, kind of like linked to the bathroom area, which by the way, too, since this is a full Airbnb, they even have like a bathroom with shower. Like I was mentioning earlier, the kitchen as well. So you can bring as much food or you can stay as long as you want. And in the morning, just take a shower and leave. It's up to you. This is a full 100% hotel to stay in, a real life hotel, which again is fascinating because, over a century ago, it was a hotel as well. And then it became a rundown building. And now it's a hotel yet again. So fascinating stuff. Old becomes new and new becomes old when it comes to this world. Now, the next part of the area that I visited was this location. This area here is closed voluntarily. Like you can actually go into it if you want. This is an area that's still run down. In fact, as you're reading here on the information, it was purposely left that way to give you everyone that stays here an idea of the night and day difference. So this was how the area that you're about to look at all looked like whenever the hotel was purchased by Jim and Aaron. And so they left it as is. This area is the more haunted area of the location. I probably spent about maybe 25 minutes in this area, mainly because I wanted to see if there was any ghostly activity, but at the same time, I didn't want to risk my chances. There's a difference between like in my past ghost hunts where I'm there, but then I can leave. Here, though, I'm staying the whole night, practically to the next morning. I left, in fact, a little after 7 a.m. the next morning. I don't want to risk the chance, since I'm staying the whole night, especially by myself, that I accidentally piss off like any bad ghosts that are within that area, because also that area contains an infamous room that I'll talk about more in a minute. And so these are the more bad ghosts that are within the hotel. I remember I was mentioning earlier, there's 13 ghosts in total. The good ghosts seem to reside in the areas that you were just visiting with me, as far as like Amelia's room, and then the other area involving the ghost of the salesman that was murdered and so on. I felt safer in those locations. That's why I stayed primarily in those rooms. In fact, most of the night, again, I was just laying in that couch area because I felt more safe. It's hard to describe, but that's how it felt. Like I could relax more in that area. I could stay, I could read without thinking there was any kind of fear on my end. Here, though, once you truly enter into this other dilapidated area, which you're now looking at, it is more creepier. I got some heebie-jeebies whenever I went into that location. Like it was... It's hard to describe. You actually have to be there to experience it, but there is more of an alarm that set off, an internal alarm, as you're walking through these rooms. There are ghosts there, and they are looking at you, and that's the sensation that I got while I was walking through this location. In fact, on the guided tours, you probably spend more time up here in this dilapidated area than you do in some of the other rooms. And it makes more sense because there are more ghostly activities. When I walked in fact, I was telling the ghost there that I'm just here to say hello. I'm just here to walk around. I do not mean to cause any disturbance. I do not mean to create any kind of problems with them. I'm just here to take pictures and showcase this area to my fans later on. And if you do something like that, it's going to sound weird, but it kind of works. Ghosts are essentially like people. That's been my experience now for the past couple of years on all these ghost hunts. If you treat them nicely, then they'll respect you in some ways. I know it sounds bizarre, but it's true. And conversely, like if you piss ghosts off, then they're gonna come back at you in a mad manner, just like anyone would, like any kind of real regular people. And so there are ghosts that are also very curious about people. In fact, that's why in some of these pics you'll just see like random pictures. That's because I know that ghosts follow me. I can't sense them, but I know that they're following me from behind because I've captured so many in the past just turning around, taking a quick picture, and lo and behold, something looks bizarre that like when it comes to an orb or a streak or something else. So whenever I'm moving room to room, I'll make my announcement. I'll say I'm here again, just whoever's here just to say hello and so on. And then I usually just turn around and take a quick pic because, yep, these ghosts are following me room to room. So there I was just taking these pictures, just going from one place to another. Unfortunately, I don't have much history on these rooms. But if you go on with the guided tours, Aaron will show some of the more haunted pictures, some of the more great evidence as far as the ghosts captured were in these rooms here. Now this actual room, the one that featured like a baby crib and I think something else like in terms of children, this was the one of the rooms that gave me the creeps like when it comes to walking in. That's, I don't know why, but there was just this eerie sensation that was within this room. I didn't stay too long in this room. All of a sudden, like when I walked in, I just immediately didn't want to stay too long. I wanted to walk out right after, but I did take some pictures in this room. In fact, there was some toys that were around there too. If you're brave enough to stay even longer, you probably play around with the toys, like try to get the children, I'm presuming that haunt this area, to come out. But still, I didn't want to particularly stay too much in here. And then this next area, this staircase and so on, this is an area that I actually captured a shadow person in one of my other videos. So if you have a chance, again, the link below, check it out, and then you'll be able to see what I captured there. You can't go down. I think you can if you wanted to go downstairs, but it'll be locked. But either way, though, this was a huge area that had a lot of people that lived here at one point. Because apparently this was also an apartment complex too before it was run down. And so this was an area that had rooms to rooms. I think there's a total of 12 rooms or so, something like that within this total location, this dilapidated area. And most of those are okay. But then we're going to this room. This was the infamous room that I was mentioning earlier. This was the one that's the bad one. This is known as the murderer's room. And here's why. You're looking at a nice little placard that's listed there that showcases the reason for the evil that's in this room. Apparently, there was a murderer who committed some really bad acts. I think it was at another area, but he ended up staying here in this room after he committed those horrible acts to those poor young women. And when that happened, his ghost, for whatever reason, after he died, haunts this location. This is the room that he haunts to this day. People feel a lot of anger, in fact, whenever they go into this room. If he hates you right off the bat. If he tolerates you, then he won't do anything. In my case, it seemed like, and again, I entered the room saying hello, paying my, just not respects, but just stating that I'm here just to take pics. I think I got off fine. Like I wasn't harassed by this ghost. I didn't feel any negative, but I didn't want to take my chances at the same time. And so I didn't stay too long in this room. But yes, this is the room that a lot of people that go on these tours state that there's really, really bad stuff here. So if you want to stay here at the Airbnb, or if you go on the guided tour, this is the room. If you truly want to have an encounter when it comes to a more negative side, this is where you'll have it here. So this murderer's room, I just took some brief pics. I didn't really encounter anything. I didn't see anything as far as any orbs or anything like that. And then I was out of there. And then that was it. Pretty much by the time I finished this tour, my own self-guided tour, in other words, in this dilapidated area, I went back to the main living room area by the couch, and then I just laid down, and then I was just going about my business for the rest of the night. As far as that ghostly encounter that I was mentioning earlier, this was this. Let's go back to the stairs. Sometime at night, I can't remember the exact time, there I was again, I think I was reading some news articles on Google News, when all of a sudden I heard it. I heard some clear, distinct footsteps coming up these very stairs. They were going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there were a total of maybe 5 or 6 steps. 100% footsteps, without a doubt. Footsteps, like there were actual footsteps happening on that staircase, and it was creepy. Like I imagine if there was a camera on me, my eyes were probably getting bigger and bigger as each footstep was occurring. Again, I was 100% by myself. Nobody else could have gotten into that area unless they knew the code to that lock that's in the front. I'm the only one with the access to that code unless it was Jim or Aaron that were there. But even if they did come in, I would have clearly heard it because it was dead silent the whole night. That's another thing. I didn't have any TV playing. I didn't have any radio or music playing. I 100% wanted to enjoy my stay in complete silence to hear these ghosts as much as possible, and it worked. These footsteps, the ones that occurred, I don't know who did them. As far as the ghosts, the 13 ghosts that are there, but somebody did, and when that happened, I was able to hear it. Unfortunately, again, there's no video footage, audio footage, because you can't set up anything there. I even have my little cameras that you've seen in footage of in some of my past videos. I couldn't use those because, again, they're not allowed, but I 100% heard those footsteps coming up those stairs, and it was truly a ghost. It couldn't have been anyone else. I was by myself, and then that was it. That was actually the only encounter I had as far as the ghostly encounter, other than my little ghost meter friend, my little ghostly friend being set off in Amelia's room, and then these footsteps. Then that was the only set of encounters I had. I didn't hear anything. I didn't sense anything, like in terms of like I mentioned in my past video, like one of the female ghosts caressing my shoulder there on the bottom floor. I didn't sense anything like that. No, as far as the only 2 encounters I had, those were the ones that just occurred. But that's pretty much it. That's my stay there at the Haunted Magnolia Hotel. Yes, indeed, I spent the night there at the famous hotel in Seguin, Texas. Highly recommend doing so if you have a chance. Bring some friends. I think you're allowed up to 4 people in total if you want to. And again, as long as you follow the rules, and you'll get a bunch of rules before you go into the hotel, you'll get an email listing of them, then you'll be fine. And it's a great way to experience an overnight stay with potentially 13 other ghosts. I'll probably end up doing this again. I might even do this on a semi-annual basis. I'll try to target it 2 times a year, if not 1 time a year, because it'll be a great way to truly have, legally in this case, being able to stay at a haunted area by yourself or by other friends to your delight. As long as you're not doing any active ghost hunt with ghost hunting like equipment hardcore, then you'll be fine. And plus the other area, the dilapidated area, next time I go, I'm probably going to do a more thorough investigation there. Probably spend half the night there in that area if I'm brave enough, and then the other half, of course, back in the more open area where I feel it's safer, and then I'll see what the results are. But yes, fantastic stay. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out the link again to the other video too. And again, thank you to Jim and Aaron for this opportunity. I'm not getting anything for this, by the way. I paid the full price. Like, I'm not getting any discounts, special friend discounts or anything like that. No. In this case, I just wanted to thank them for the amazing work that they've done, and then also for the other 2 guided tours, which I highly recommend too if you have a chance. In fact, I'll include the link for their website too below, so that way you'll be able to see more information related to it. But that's it again, everyone, for my special edition there, my video. I spent the night at the Haunted Magnolia Hotel. If anyone has any more info as far as their own stays, maybe you've gone on the tour before. I know that others have, because in my other video I saw the comments and people were mentioning about their experiences on those tours. Now, if you've spent the night there, let me know. Post the comments too as far as your own experiences. See if yours matches mine, if you had more or less when it comes to that particular stay. So, all right, everyone. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.